Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us in this session for teacher education. I would like to welcome all the speakers for the successful projects that we have in this session. I shall start with Professor Malak Zalouk, who will introduce to us SAP for PCL CBHE project. Dr. Malak, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Karim, and good afternoon to everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you perfectly. Yes.
Okay. And I'm also trying to share my screen. All right. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Right. So let me try to enlarge it to a full screen. Full screen. All right, here we go. So the project is a school and university partnership for peer communities of learners, and the acronym is SUP or SOUP for PCL. And of course, this is as we all know, it's a capacity building project that, Karim, do you have any idea how I move my screen?
Just as normal as you do when presenting a PowerPoint presentation.
Well, it doesn't seem to move. Oh, there we are. Okay, I will talk a little bit about the context, and then we'll focus on what were the outputs, particularly the research that came out of this very important project, the methodology used, and then more importantly, some of the important sustainable results of this project. So in terms of the context, we started this project in a context where theory and practice are kind of separate and apart. So school and university have not traditionally worked too closely together, except in the past, last century, in the middle of last century, there were such initiatives. But for the longest time, we didn't have initiatives that combined schools and university working particularly for capacity development and for continuous professional development. So the school-university partnership, which is the capacity development stream project, had the goal of building the capacities of faculties of education to enhance and modernize continuous professional development in the Egyptian context, particularly with regard to schools. So the specific objectives were to create professional development schools around universities, to develop peer communities of learners, to develop mentorship as a method of professional development, to develop also quality assurance units within schools so that we could enhance school-based reforms, and more importantly, to develop new habits of mind, which required very strong and profound cultural transformation. We also aim to develop materials and develop new pedagogies, innovative ones. The coordinating university was the American University in Cairo through its Middle East Institute for Higher Education, which had the task of coordinating, but more importantly, was very well positioned for policy dialogue with policymakers on the Egyptian scene. These were our partners. We had 4 from Europe and 4 from Egypt. And we managed actually along the way in the program to twin those partners so that we had 1 European institution twinned with 1 Egyptian institution. This was very instrumental in later stages. Our work packages were 5. So we started with a preparation work package in which we worked very hard to formulate our teams. We did a lot of scoping and needs assessment at the beginning. And also we were able to create a lot of the requirements and the outputs that we had aimed to do, such as school clustering, such as mentors, and all the necessary baseline reports that were necessary for the conduct of this project. At the development stage, we went further and we were able to have to establish our 43 professional development schools around the universities. And very importantly, we were able to establish a lot of reflective practices and innovative teaching possibilities. In our package on quality plan, we were able to do a lot of monitoring and evaluation and to develop several tools for that and to do a lot of quality assurance along the way. In our dissemination and exploitation of results, the most important aspect, of course, we had a very good webinar. We had also very good, we had a good set of case studies that were very important, and I will go a little more in depth into that. And of course, all the twinning that occurred was extremely important. We also have a website that you may want to visit. For the management, the management of the project, we were in charge, as I mentioned, and that was largely through our website, but also very importantly, we held several management meetings, and we also carried on constant communication, circulars that really managed the situation quite well. In general, a very important output was that we managed to produce several case studies, both in English and in Arabic, 5 in English and 1 in Arabic, in which we detailed the process of the partnership and detailed the impacts and had a very strong, rigorous methodology. So the real questions of our case studies was, what was the partnership all about? What was its nature? How did this kind of partnership impact on beliefs, values, and attitudes? And what were some of the tensions, if any, between perceived changes, self-perceived changes, and actual practices on the ground? We used a mixed method. We had both quantitative and qualitative. We used triangulation, so it was very rigorous. We a lot of rigorous data analysis in teams. And so there was a lot of opportunity for checks and balances. We had several tools, some of which were questionnaires, focus group discussions, interviews, and a lot of observation and document analysis. The process was divided into several phases. So we had an inception phase, we had an evolution phase, and we also finally institutionalized and consolidated our process quite strongly. The structure of the partnership itself was one that was highly institutionalized. The collaboration was through institutions coming together and recognized. It was a very complex partnership. The mode of learning was focused quite a bit on continuous professional development for both styles of institutions, universities, and schools for exemplary teaching. And the geographic location of the PD schools were in the neighborhood of these universities so that the flow could be easy between both. And the nature of the relationship was one that was really expanding all the time. Different stakeholders were constantly joining in, so the relationships and the partnership was expanding. We managed to create more than 100 peer communities of learners, both in schools and universities. And we activated the training units in the schools quite well. We noted a very strong renewed sense of professional identity and self-efficacy, and the boundaries between university professors and school teachers were blurred in the process. We also were able to install very significant outcomes, such as reflection became a new habit of mind. Teachers felt empowered, and so did faculty members, a lot of collaboration and mentorship, and a lot of innovations in teaching practices focused on activity-based learning, new programs and courses that were developed, and designing and producing joint learning and teaching materials around STEM, sustainable development, and global citizenship. So these were some of the significant outcomes, but also skills were very much developed, such as we managed to break down the barriers of technology, the fears of technology. So a lot of skills around the use of technology. Communication skills were greatly enhanced, particularly English language, both written and spoken. And research skills amongst teachers were extremely enhanced, particularly for action research. So these were the skills that were gained during this important initiative. Uh, Very significant that since the partnership was initiated, student achievement were measured to increase, and school attendance markedly improved as a result of the project. We were able to measure both these at inception and later in the development of the project. A very important component of the project was to measure or to understand whether there was a discrepancy between self-perceived transformations and the actual in-depth teacher practices in schools on the ground. We were able to do that through an ethnographic in-depth study of a student who was part of this initiative and the team, and who managed to gain her master's degree thesis in the process. I now give the floor to my colleague Lamia Eid.
Hi. So the purpose of this ethnographic study, which mainly was based on comparative perspectives, was to explore teachers' perceptions concerning the quality relationships with their students and about their teaching practices. Becoming a participant observer, actually, this made it possible to ensure the consistency between their teachers' perceived concepts and transformation and their actual behavior in their classrooms and in generally in the schools themselves. And we are talking about 2 schools for this study, and we're having like 13 participants. And since we are talking about participant observation, so we are talking about a number of data collection methods, including direct observations, casual conversations, document analysis, field notes, building rapport. All of these were adopted for this study. And for the general findings that are the main or the core outcome here from this study, I can tell that the teachers who were part of the PCL and had acquired the habit of reflection, made it part of their perceptions and practices, they had profoundly transformed their teaching strategies and their relationships with their students. They actually showed full congruency that really was existed between their perceptions and their performance.
Okay, so moving on to the whole area of sustainability and institutionalization of this important initiative and practice, what was very remarkable is that we did a follow-up study even after the end of the project to follow up and check whether this was continuing at all. And we were very pleased to discover that during the pandemic, the PCLs had continued to be very functional and continued to move on during the pandemic and was very instrumental. It created a lot of value, and they were a source of social and emotional support, but also of innovative teaching practices. So it proved to be a very sustainable and good practice is to create those PCLs across universities and in schools. We conducted a study, a rapid questionnaire during the pandemic, which involved 17 of the 43 schools. And we found that all these practices were sustained, the communication continued, and there were very many professional gains that continued during those very difficult times. But these teachers had been equipped, and these were some of the quotations that they raised, that they felt so safe and that they supported each other in their new innovative teaching practices. So it was very important to pick up that this had sustained beyond the time of the project. Even more important in my conclusion is the fact that the policy dialogue that we had started since the inception of the project with policymakers, particularly the Ministry of Higher Education and the Ministry of Education and the Supreme Council of Universities, had yielded magnificent fruits. And so in June 2021, this model and pilot became a national initiative. so that all faculties of education now are encouraged to create professional development schools around them, 15 schools at least in neighboring educational districts. And so the partnership is now sealed through an agreement between both ministries and the Supreme Council. And so we really look forward to all these fruits of this very, very successful model of teacher professional development and innovation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Malak and Professor Lamia. We now move to the next project with Professor Rhonda Sofer and Isabella Petriashvili. I hope I'm pronouncing the names right. They will give us a brief on the CURE CBHE project. Please.
Yes, I need to upload, so the person that has to stop sharing so I can then move my presentation up. So the last Professor Malak has to. Oh, great, thank you.
And also, please mute the microphones who are not speakers, because some strange voices are coming.
And Lamia, you need to stop sharing so we can upload. Only one person is allowed to upload at a time.
I'm not sharing anything.
Okay, let's see if I can share it now. Only one person can, it says only one person can share at a given time. And your name is, can the host correct this so I can upload my presentation? Is the host here?
Yes, and
We are here.
nobody is sharing the screen now.
Okay, so I would like to upload my presentation. So if you could make sure nobody else is sharing the screen. Now I can do that. Thank you. Okay.
It's okay now.
No, it's okay. Yes. Thank you. So I'm myself and Professor Isabella is here to present the CURE project, which promoted democratic principles and civic education in Israel and in Georgia. Let's see. How do I? Okay. So our objectives were very clear. We wanted to really make sure that students who are graduating institutions have a good idea of what is civic involvement, civic education, the importance of democracy. And we did this, it's a curriculum reform program, but we know that it's not enough just to have courses. So we have a multi-dimensional program that dealt with developing courses. It also dealt with, it had a train the trainer workshops. We had a special SMS program. We were one of the 5 programs of over 100 that were awarded the SMS Train the Trainer program. We ran faculty workshops. We created centers for civic and action and on our campuses, which helped students gain the tools they need to be involved in the city, in their communities. We had a whole program for in-service teacher training. And we published kits and books which can be downloaded from our website that help you build courses or design programs. Now, our priorities, I'm just going to skip through this. Our partnership was with Israeli and Georgian institutions. We had academic colleges of education. We had departments or faculty of universities. We had student unions and NGOs involved in our program. It included 15 academic institutions, 5 in Israel, 5 in Georgia, 5 in Europe, 2 NGOs, and 9 student unions. So we had a large 27 groups and around 67 people working and collaborating at one time. I'm going just to this is our European partners, came from Austria, United Kingdom, Estonia, Poland. It was a great team. And our project was important because we believe that students need to be active citizens, need to be engaged in their society. And teachers have a very pivotal role in training their pupils to be engaged. In other words, if the teachers aren't engaged, how can they engage their children to be, and their pupils to be engaged? There was a great need for this in Israel, and there's a great need for this in Georgia. Our impact was very strong because each one of our institutions in Georgia and in Israel established centers for social and civic involvement that run community programs. During the life of our project, we had over 100 programs. And so we had a real strong, I mean, they're still running today. They didn't close up at the end of the project. It had a national impact because these activities are very much engaged in the society around them. So the national impact is also felt. And you know, how the impact by programs and courses, the numbers. This slide really summarizes everything that we did. We had 5 courses, and everything can be downloaded from our website. Now, I think the website is going to be mentioned. If not, I'll write it in the chat. But we have 5 courses, and all the courses can be downloaded from our internet site. Global challenges in promoting active citizenship, civic education for sustainability, which is an issue today, promoting active citizenship, civic education, democracy in Israel and in Georgia, 2 different courses, but the challenges and pathways. We were supposed to pilot 34 in our application. In the end, we had 117 pilots. We had almost 4,500 students benefiting from these programs. And so that was with the courses. With the SMS training, 132 academics got trained to be trainers. And then with the institutional training, we trained 860 faculty members in Israel and in Georgia through 66 different faculty trainings. Our centers of social and civic involvement ran 104 different activities in the community that the students were engaged and ran. And we trained around 800 in-service teachers in our program. We published also a few books that gave here, and Isabella's going to be talking more about the special mobility strand and the training and the activities. We also have a book dealing with engaging students to be active citizens in the community. We provide models for that. All these, and we have our kits. All these things can be downloaded from our website. I didn't add there was supposed to be a video clip. I'm going to just, because I'm sensitive with the time, and maybe I'll look for the video clip later, but we gave one institution as an example of their impact. But we also had testimonies of our people, and what was very important is that if you engage and excite students, it's contagious. It's contagious not only for the faculty, but for the whole institution. So through our centers with civic and social involvement, we had the whole institute becoming engaged in the work that we were doing.
Okay, I think that I have.
There are many spin-offs.
Rhonda,
Okay.
shall I go on now? Rhonda?
I muted myself, Isabella, so it's all yours.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm very happy to be here with you all today. So, as Rhonda has mentioned, one of the most important part of our program was the special mobility strand, within which we had 5 very impressive training workshops with our EU partner universities. As for the spin-offs that resulted from these projects, next slide, please, Rhonda. Next slide, please, Rhonda. I cannot move. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so I'm very proud that one of our projects, this is the national project on developing and implementing technology-enhanced teaching and learning at Georgian higher education institutions, was initiated by myself together with other Georgian universities and coordinated by Tallinn University. It was funded this year, and there you can see the 2 applications for Erasmus CPHE projects that were not funded, unfortunately, but they will be resubmitted, as well as we are planning together with our Israeli colleagues again, and maybe Morocco, to start to a new project on teacher training programs. Next slide, please. Yeah, here you can see grants that promoted CURE's program directly or expanded CURE's aims. So the first 2 grants you see, it was in Kutaisi University. Students received grants for young generation for the better education and civic education promotion through the youth engagement. Also, Ilia State University was granted by Shota Rustaveli National Science Foundation a 3-year grant on the development of democratic citizenship in Georgia, in Georgian schools, which aimed at creating a model for of secondary school student competencies, and also developing and promoting pedagogical approaches for formal and informal education, promoting student competencies for democratic citizenship and civic activity. Next slide, please. Also, as a result of our CURE project, the main contribution in terms of publications is our vague handbook that is edited by our colleagues from Salzburg University. This handbook is on theory and practice of values and knowledge education. And you can see here, we have contributed 5 chapters. All these contributions that you can read here are the result of our CURE project, and especially the training session on VAIC, very important part. This is value and knowledge education. And also our British colleagues Alan Bainbridge and Lyndon West published the experience on 2 SMS trainings of CURE teams. Yes, next, please. As for sustainability and exploitation plan, 80% of pilot courses that Rhonda has already mentioned are still running, and they don't need any additional funding, so they can be sustained through years in future. CURE's online course material is being exploited by thousands all over the world, and we can see the statistics at the end of our presentation. And the website is still sustainable, and it will be maintained 3 years after the life of the project by Sapir Academic College, but then it will be transferred to the coordinating institution at Gordon Academic College. And you can see the link where you can visit it later. The SMS faculty training program created a cadre of 132 faculty training mentors, which in their turn, trained 860 non-CURE faculty members, and these people will continue to mentor their faculty members, as well as in teacher training programs, to use these innovative teaching methods and approaches. Next, please. The online handbook on the SMS training that enables continuous exploitation of these training programs. It is published. It is in the electronic version on our website, as well as it has been published in Georgian as well, in English, and in Georgian and English. Equipment contributed to project goals and modernization of our HAZE are being utilized, of course, after the life of the project. And most importantly, centers for social and civic engagement, officially established and running programs which strengthen the link between the higher education institutions and the society. And lastly, here is the statistics about our visits to our websites. You can see these statistics, and the impressive number is that the viewers are from 142 different countries. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Ronda and Professor Isabella. Now we come to Professor Maria Impidovo to present to you the Beltia CBHE project. Professor Maria, the floor is
Yes, thank you. Good morning to everyone. I just searching the presentation. One moment. I'm sharing in the chat the website. The presentation to be in PDF or share screen. Okay. Sorry, just one moment, because I don't have it in PDF. I have to transform in PDF. Okay, thank you. Okay, it's going. I will present this project, this capacity building. The title is Developing Teacher Competence in International Blended Community, blended learning. It's a project about blended learning and teacher educator. And I'm Maria. I'm just the presenter of the project from Aix-Marseille. So I share with you in the chat also the website of the project. It's still online. It's a project that is already closed, but have an interesting impact, and it's worthy to share with all of you. So the idea is to support professional development of teachers and build a collaborative European and ASEAN community that can reflect teacher practice in teacher education, and especially with use of computer. So our consortium was very interesting. So we have some university in Europe, some university in Asia. So the leadership was managed by Aix-Marseille University in France. We involve Belgium, Denmark, and Estonia. From Asia, we have a very interesting partner from Malaysia, Bangladesh, Bhutan. So it was very interesting and a rich opportunity to collaborate with us. So our target was teacher educator. We selected this special typology of the teacher because we consider more easy to build this international collaboration between us, and with the idea that intense collaborative exchange will give a contribution to our common and reciprocal professionalization. So the main idea was to share and critically discuss the practice of teacher educator, supporting innovation in pedagogical practice through the use of technology, and dedicate all of this to increasing skill and promoting professional development in a very broad sense. We do this with blended learning, so we give a lot of space to this concept that we develop with the all the consortium. We consider that blended learning is important because give opportunity to combine different kind of technology, so give a flexibility to to also different kind of resources that are present in each institution to involve a teacher educator. And so we try to build this international learning community between teacher educator. This is a very schematic representation of the project. So we start with a survey. We made some module about education technology, pedagogical training, and we propose some face-to-face activity to keep this idea of blended learning as much as possible in the first year. In the second year, we propose some activity linked with the portfolio, video sharing, online discussion, with some training for online tutor, and then we building together some framework for shared competence. And the online activity was always reinforced by for in-presence meeting. So this is another representation of the project. So I put some picture to give an idea of the community that we have tried to develop between all teacher educator. So the idea is the consortium give the opportunity to us to meet and to develop some content, but this every content was proposed to face a local community. So the international community is linked with the local community. This is the more important point for us because we want to share the knowledge for European and Asian international community to the local community. So we have made a first meeting in France, then in Bhutan, in Bangladesh, in Pakistan, a final conference in Malaysia. The activity online was organized in Moodle with reflective tools, video, wiki, self-assessment quiz, and collaborative activity. And as I said before, the local training was the real added value that we give to the community, to the local community. So this is an example of the 20 educational model that was developed in Moodle. This website is still open and was a co-building between each institution about active learning, blended learning, social networks, scaffolding, relevant topic that are considered relevant by the community of teacher educator. So this is an example of outcome. I report some qualitative outcome and quantitative outcome to give an idea. So we have collected a lot of data from TPAC analysis. We have a lot of participants joined Moodle, 3 international project meeting, a 2 training meeting, several formative local sessions with over 500 participants, 3 international partner visits, one more important, very interesting international conference in Malaysia with more of 300 participants. This was very challenge and a great opportunity to this final conference with international keynote. We propose different activity of dissemination, local activity, and more of 51 articles in the website. This is to give an idea how the international community move from the online to the local, and was, I think, something that make really relevant in this project. About the qualitative outcome, we have work on the common framework to teacher educator for professional development. We have give a consistent impact in the policy of institution involved, and we have arise also some scientific participation with the publication some scientific paper in a peer-reviewed journal. So this is an example of dissemination. In website you can read more about each activity that we develop. So to talk more about the impact, to collect also for us some evidence about this impact, we propose always some activity of research connected with the training and formative to have also to collect also evidence from the field and the local community. So we have proposed a different survey to identify needs from teacher educator and to building, for example, the correspondent training. We have done some final survey and interview, and also different survey at the end of each training. In this way, we collect evidence and give also feedback for the project in the starting point of the project, during the project, and the end of the project. This is an example publication that we have produced with all the partners. So it's the idea of the collaborative impact, also about the production of knowledge between us. So a main goal of this publication was to understanding with the use of TPAC the use of technology in different universities of teacher educator. This is some data from this research. But more important for us was the idea that we have developed and give a contribution to the technological skill of teacher education. We have improved pedagogic instructional design skills, but also, and not least, interpersonal, intercultural skill. Sometimes, yes, it's difficult to give us evidence of this quality dimension, but we really work this link. An international interpersonal element was very important for us. So in the same times we face some challenge like intercultural awareness about also capacity building, formality, and also about the difference between us as culture, but also technological gaps between us. And in the end, we value this teacher and professional development as a common and shared impact. This is other data to show the implication of the participant in the 20 modules. So we collect data from this. We collect and we try to make evidence about the value of international exchange between teacher educator, because we consider teacher educator a key role in the spreading of knowledge for teacher. So teacher educator needs to open to this international collaboration. We consider blended learning and the international community a good space to improve skills. More, as I said before, we give a lot of space intercultural learning, also in line with European teacher educator proposal. The technology was very relevant aspect, the main aspect, of course, for development of new competence. So each teacher educator develop new competence about teacher educator, but also specific tools. So in the end, everyone increase his readiness about technology. In conclusion, we manage this challenge of co-design of teacher educator and professional development resource with an effective professional development that needs to have a focus on the collective and collaborative training for a mutual enrichment. So this was our main point, and this for us very important is the link between international and online community with the local community of teachers. In the end, blended learning was very effective way to work, and also after the pandemic, we see how much this blended learning was still used from the local institution, and the local different community institution was ready to affront and deal with COVID also, thanks to the blended learning solution developed in the project. There are more examples of publication that I propose to explore if you would like to know more about this project. And it was interesting to see that we write in different language, also local language. In the end, this is a coming soon a book with a collective contribution about, and the title is Blended Learning in IT Education, and we will finish soon this project. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Professor Maria. I would like to thank all the speakers for being very efficient in sticking to the schedule. Thank you very much. We still have time for questions. If you would like, please, for the attendees, you can use the raise hand option, or you can type your question in the Q&A section, so we can.
Maria, I am asked to make an appointment.
Yes, I didn't hear. Yes.
Maria, I asked her for a personal meeting with you after the session, so I hope you're available for 5 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
I think all the projects are. We have a question from Mr. Ahmed Mustafa. He's asking if all your projects are joint projects or structural projects. I think they are all joint. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
Curriculum reform and on a joint multinational project is CURE.
Yes, Professor Olajaid. Yes, all the projects are collaborative projects. They depend on international dimension of the Erasmus Plus program, where you have to have partners from different countries. You never work alone in the capacity building in higher education.
So if we don't have any more questions, can we close the session, Karim?
Yes, I would like to thank all the professors who presented their successful projects. We hope you continue on working and to more success. Thank you very much. I would like to thank all the attendees for their active participation. I hope you enjoyed the rest of the event, and thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And Maria, I invited you to a special meeting room. Let's see if we can work it out in my schedule. Okay, looking forward to meeting you.
No problem.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, ma'am. Thank you.
Bye.
How does this work?
How do we go out?
Is it schedule meeting? And this is now.